Um, all right, we'll start from the line begins ratzu, even though we went further, but we're still in the middle of the Indian, so we'll start from here. The line begins with the word ratzu.
What page?
On page AyinBase 4. Actually, here is the same book. AyinBase 4. And it's about a third from the top of the page and begins with the word ratzu. So he's discussing the Indian that actually we discussed a lot, and even yesterday, the hisgabrut tzurah al hachomer in the avodah of the neshama itself. As I said, it's really a phenomenal thought. The neshama has chomer. And what is the chomer of the neshama? It is this ahava, this powerful ahava. Ahava b'ta'anugim. Ahava that draws the neshama to completely dissipate in holocaust. This is chomer from the perspective of the neshama. Why is this chomer? Because this is its desire. It could be a very fine, but a very fine redman. It's enormous, but this is its preference, and therefore this is called chomer. And the principle is hisgabrut hatzurah al hachomer is that the neshama should stay put and attached to the goof, which actually interferes with this ahava, with this oinek. And in the meantime, he gave us a very interesting significance of the word kala. The word kala, he says, has two very opposite interpretations, but actually they complement one another. Kala is moshe kiloying, that he completely dissipates and goes out into Elokus. And then kala meloshin kela. Kela means a prison. That he voluntarily, so to speak, chooses the imprisonment in the goof. Why? Because this, as we're going to discuss, this is the tzurah. This is a much more profound truth and reality than its own experience. And in avodah terms, this is called ratzu v'shuv. Ratzu, this is when it is running out of itself in kiloyim, and shuv, returning back in settling down in the mitzias. So to speak, doing its mission. V'yodua, at the end of that line, ratzu, v'yodua, it is known that hashuv hu koved harbe yeshe miharotzu, that the shuv is much more difficult than the ratzu. The kasher hu b'tokev harotzu, the ahava b'talmugim, that when he is in a state of tokev harotzu, in a state of the power of the ratzu, the ahava b'talmugim, of an expiation, of a state of ahava b'talmugim. As we explained briefly the other day, ahava b'talmugim in the ahava that is imbued with tainuk. Ahava normally, ahava has, the translation of ahava is, the closest translation of ahava is ratzu, loshen ova, I want. And wanting means that essentially you are seeking for something that you don't have. And you're going for it. This is ahava, is meaning for ratzu. You're seeking something that you don't have. Ava b'ta'anugim is of a different ilk. B'ta'anugim, in order to have ta'anug, you have to have it already. You have to be there. So this ava b'ta'anugim is an ava where you're seeking something not because you're lacking it, but you're seeking to get more deeply involved in it, and to be dissociated from anything that abstracts it, that interferes with it. That's ava b'ta'anugim. And that's why in ava b'ta'anugim there's a complete dissociation from the body, because body cannot experience ava b'ta'anugim. And therefore the shuv, to get back into the world, into a bodily orientation, is much more difficult than the ratzu. The kasher b'teger also ava b'ta'anugim, because when he's a state of ava b'ta'anugim, noyach lo yoiser, it is much easier for him, or pleasant for him, liyes b'bchinas ki lo yin lagamri, to ultimately follow through to the ki lo yin lagamri, to total dissipation. And this is much more pleasant for him, preferable for him, than being in the state of shuv, in the aspect of shuv. As always, we try to focus in and give meaning to the word bechina. What is the bechina of shuv? Oineg, as we said, ava b'ta'anugim, this is where there is not a duality, where there are no two entities, where he is dissipating into eloquence, into the Ayin that is so wonderful. Shuv is where he goes back into his own presence, stays put where he is, and then recognizes the greatness of this eloquence. And in what way is he then recognizing this greatness of eloquence? In what way is this translate in his state of shuv, that he then follows through on the directives that he receives from eloquence? That in your state of shuv, this is what you should do. This is how you should live, and then you will fulfilling Hashem's will, and Hashem will be with you in that way. This is said b'bchinas shuv. This is b'chinas shuv. B'chinas shuv. The word b'china, as we always said, means that it's a subtle element. The relationship then is like between two things in a very subtle manner. The subtle is because it is in the form of, it is through a process of directives rather than a direct connection. So to be b'chinas shuv, what is the enticement of b'chinas shuv? You'll be yourself. Why do you want to dissipate? You want to cease to be. So he says, these b'chinas shuv is more difficult than to be kiloyin. Kiloyin means that he will cease to be, which is a pretty challenging decision to make. But in that state of ava b'ta'anugim, li b'chinas kiloyin is easier and more pleasant than li b'chinas shuv, that he should go back into his own metzius. So understand, that's what b'chinas shuv. The shuv does not say, okay, I'm going back to my little abode and forget about you. That's not shuv. That's losing chayas, losing life. Shuv means that you go back into your metzius, and from there you recognize eloquence. That is really a challenging thing. That's what I said, b'chinas shuv is more difficult than kiloyin. Kiloyin is complete dissipation. Vehu bitul godel yoser. And thus, the shuv is a greater bitul. B'bchinas hanochas atzmusay. This beetle has the bechina, has the quality, again, the subtle quality of hanochas atzmusay, of setting himself aside. He is going b'shuv, he is becoming a mitzias. How is his hanochas atzmusay? This is hanochas atzmusay. He is giving up his own mitzias. Where is he giving? He is going back into himself. In the shuv there is a greater inyan hanochas atzmusay than in the kiloin. Because what is atzmusay? Lahaniach litzoinoi b'hakiloin, to set aside his profound will b'hakiloin, in dissipating in kedusha, in holocaust. This is his etzem. This is his mitzias. He's drawn from the perspective of his sensitivities, of his experience. He's drawn to be bikiloin. This is atzmusay. This is his mitzias. And in the shuv, he is giving up his essence, his own essence, to become a mitzias. He's giving up his own essence. Lo niach retzeinei b'hakiloyin, to set aside his will in the kiloyin, to be in kiloyin, liyes melubish beguf, and instead to be connected and associated with the body. Olakayem yitzoinei yoiser lamata beguf v'nafashatibis, and to fulfill his will further down, more involved in the matter in below, beguf v'nafashatibis, in the guf v'nafashatibis. Okay, so now the challenge over here is we ought to understand that both of these movements, ratzu and shuv, are movements that the neshama is actually involved in. It isn't that it goes into ratzu and it's pushed into something else, and it's not involved in that inyan of being in the guf. No, that's not from the neshama. In all aspects of the Havaya with the neshama, there is a neshama element. It is involved. It is actually the neshama makes the decision where he wants to go, essentially. I don't remember exactly who the person was. I'll hopefully be able to look it up. It's a very interesting little episode where a great Rav, a great person, was told by the Rebbe. I think this was the Meiser with Yosef. I told the Alter Rebbe, he said to him, "V'teves nishmoscha, for the good of your neshama, toiv li yoyish liyis a balagola miliyis rav. It is preferable to be a balagola than to be a rav." Balagola, a wagon driver. Huh?
Yeah.
And this was an instruction of the Alter Rebbe. In the meantime, this was many years passed by. The Alter Rebbe was was no longer here physically, and he said, so Baal Masbi, they call him, whatever. So suddenly a whole delegation from a certain city came to offer him ksav rabbanus, to appoint him the Rav in the city. And he consented. This was something, that's a wonderful thing. And they had already prepared the whole delegation, and they had a royal wagon to take him to the place. And he followed them, and he stepped onto the first step of the wagon. And then he recalled suddenly the story, the instruction from the Rebbe. So when he called the instruction from the Rebbe, he jumped off the wagon. He jumped off the step. Then began a whole process how he became Baal Gola and so forth. But then he said afterwards, many years afterwards, when everything was over and he already recognized the purpose and the significance of all that, he said that at the moment when he stepped up on this step, his mind opened up to new insights. He opened up in a totally different Ruchnisike experience. Jumping off the wagon was a real challenge. It was a real challenge.
I don't know if it's the same answer or not. Maybe it's a confusion a bit between two. It was someone said it's opposite Isaac Homer.
Isaac Homer?
Yeah, when someone said it passed away, so then he was basically, there were whole thing over there, who's going to be a rebbe, a bunch of rebbeim, his sons and things like that. So at some point he was basically to become a rebbe. He had the same challenge, and like he describes how all he always opened up for him and this and that, he was, and then he
could be.
No way. He said and he went back.
Could be. I don't remember. I have to look it up.
Yeah, like his mind opened up as he was coming into the position of being a Rav.
Yeah. He
that.
made the first step. Anyway, so yeah, the point is, the point of the story that I'm bringing over here is that jumping off the wagon was an extremely challenging thing. It's going back, into his life. So they said this shuv is much more difficult than the ratzu. This is where he is setting himself aside. How is he setting himself aside? He's going back into himself. He is setting aside the ratzu in his will, in the dissipation, and instead being melubish beguf u'kayim tzeinei, and instead being melubish in the guf u'kayim tzeinei. We ought to try anyway to understand the significance of these words. Kiloyoin, being dissipated. This is putting himself aside. To go away from kiloyoin, this is putting himself aside. How's that putting himself aside? He's going back into himself. Now this gives us a little bit of an insight, touch of the principle of ratzoin. The ratzoin is not as we normally perceive ratzoin. There is I and there is my want. I want something. And this want will satisfy something that I'm missing. You say, I'm hungry, I want to eat. This is not what's called ratzu, because I want to eat, not because I want to eat. I want to eat to dissipate the hunger. This is a very low level administration, but from of a true principle. Ratzu in ha-nefesh is the nefesh. This is the nefesh.
Ratzu or Ratzon?
Ratzoin. Ratzu HaNefesh, this is the nefesh. Why does the nefesh want? Because that is what it is. What does it want? It wants what it is. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya has these words, and everybody says these words, and people, I once discuss it, people say, oh, we never thought of that. You know, says the last is, HaNefesh misaneges mima sheyesh lo oineg.
Where is it?
Huh?
Where is it?
In Tanya. In early part in Tanya. In early part. HaNefesh misaneges mima sheyesh lo oineg. The nefesh is misan, delights of that, from that which a nefesh has oineg. What is the meaning of that, of these words? The nefesh misaneges, and oineg ha-nefesh is not that the nefesh misaneg because it fills some kind of a gap. It's misaneg of that which is delightful to the nefesh, exclusively. So similarly, in ratzu, the ratzu in ha-nefesh is representative of nefesh. This is the essence of the nefesh. So therefore, this ratzu to be b'bchinas kiloyoin, this is the ratzu ha-nefesh. This is the nefesh. And I'm going to take a few moments to discuss this a little further because it opens up a new insight and it helps us understand ourselves also, because we always say rotzen lichyos, everything one wants to live. Rotzen lichyos. And also there's expression in Chassidus that's brought down from Chokrim actually, called over ratzu b'kiyumei, that everything wants to continue to be. Ratzu b'kiyumei. He wants that he should be b'kiyumei, that he should be what he is. So I explained always that this sounds awfully similar to the worldly expression that everything wants to persist in existence. What is it called? Survival. To survive. The difference is, and it's a profound difference. Survival is referring to its own survival, just to be. What's the point of being? What is the ratzu behind survival? That's because it wants to survive. It doesn't have a spirit, it doesn't have a real meaning, a real explanation how come yes. Ratzu b'kiyumei means like this. Everything that exists is a godly creation. And in that respect, because it's a godly creation, therefore its being is its connection to Hashem, to God. This is where it experiences godliness, through its being, through what it is. This is really the extent to which he can, unless to avoid it, he can relate to godliness. And therefore, he wants to persist to be what he is, because thereby he is connected to the truth, the godly truth. Like we always give the illustration that nobody in his right mind would consent to change his facial appearance and become more handsome because this nose is is a nicer nose. Nobody would what's the matter?
It's the tail and stuff. I think it was better the way it was.
We choose that kind of a change. Why? He is more handsome with this new nose or with his ears because then this new nose will make him more handsome in the world, but he will lose his connection to his godly creation, to what he is from a godly perspective. It's not real. So this ratzu that the nefesh wants to be, this is its connection to godliness itself. This is what the nefesh is. And from this perspective that the nefesh is godly, when he comes to the point where he has ava b'ta'anugim, it wants to dissipate into this ava. This is the nefesh. As we explained the other day, Friday I think, that this ava b'ta'anugim, this oineg, it's called oineg otzum. This oineg is not an oineg that the nefesh, because the nefesh has satisfied something that it's missing, and therefore it's misanic, like you said, you're misanic from the fact that you were deprived of something and now this was filled. You were hungry, so you were able to eat. This oineg at this point, when he understands soga on the floor in the lakus, then the oineg is the very oineg of the lakus itself. It's not. He's no longer two separate entities. He sees a lakus and he's misamic.
He's not satisfying a lack.
It's not satisfying a lack. He's experiencing the beauty and the richness of a lakus itself. This is the oineg otzum.
Then he has to get off the wagon. And he has to go on the wagon.
I want to put it in words, in structured form. Elokus is motzurishi. Motzurishi means it does not have the inyan that it came into being. Nefesh, neshama, came into being. It came into being from Elokus. And it has a ratzu, it has a desire for Elokus. It is Elokus, but it is hayipach be'apach nishtzchaim. It was blown in. True, it was blown in from Atzmos Elokus, but it was blown in. The real Elokus, this is Motzurishi. There is no prior state. This is the pure truth itself. So when the neshama has the hasoga niflo in Elokus, to the point where he creates the ava b'ta'anugim oinag niflo, oinag otzum. That oinag is the oinag is not an oinag of a created entity. It's the oinag of Elokus itself, and that's what the neshama is actually experiencing. But the neshama is experiencing that oinag to jump off the wagon at that point and go into shuv. Why? Because he recognizes that there is the godly will, which is beyond his experience. His experience with all this refinement, this is called chomer. This is called chomer because this makes him into a mitzias. Whatever mitzias is a chomer.
But the point of kiloin, it's eis mitzias. It's not.
Right. This kiloyan is his mitzias. Because this is his experience.
But it culminates in no mitzias. It culminates in bittul mitzias. And therefore you would think...
One second. Think about it. I know in verbiage it comes out like this. It's true. I mean, you have to actually focus it. It culminates in no mitzias because his mitzias so demands.
Because?
His mitzias, his experience of Elokus, so prefers to go into kiloim, but he prefers it because of his experience of Elokus.
But another question is, when we say that the neshama is Elokus, but I know seeing in different Pirushim in Tanya when it speaks about the idea of chelik lekama mamash, it says that the neshama is Elokus, but it's Elokus as a nivra. It's Elokus in the form. So therefore, as a nivra, you would think that ultimately its desire is it has to be a mitzias in order to have a ratzu.
But now we're saying that the ultimate goal is to be Ayin. So how does that? So then, really, it seems like
no,
that's
no,
a
no, not the
contradiction.
ultimate goal, not the goal. On the contrary, the goal is to be mitzvah. And so that's where the shuv, he jumps back. But
It's
when
desire.
he gets involved in the ahava, in hasogin elekis, and that brings him to oineg eleki. This is his true experience. Oineg eleki.
But how is it related to the kiyumai if the emes mitzvahs of the neshama is a nivra? That's how the Eibusher made a neshama, that it's a nivra. So kiyumai means you have to stay as a nivra.
So this ratzu b'kiyumai, that's what we're saying over here. This ratzu b'kiyumai is from a higher source than the experience of the neshama, than the ratzu nefesh. That's what we're going to
Ratzu
explain.
b'kiyumai is shuv?
Ratzu b'kiyumai is shuv.
Is that what you said by bringing yesterday? Shmom Odom?
What?
Remember?
I remember, yeah. Let's
Okay.
not mix everything. So the draw to kiloyin is due to the oineg. Oineg is an experience of nefesh, not the etzem.
Even though it's truth-based, it's still
Yes, it's still. That's what it says. That's the phenomenal thing of it.
It's almost beyond experience. It's real knowledge. It's real truth.
It's real
Yet
truth, and not it's experiencing the godly truth,
Right.
not because it makes me delightful.
Yeah. So it's experience, but with a real truth quality to it. So
Absolutely.
Hence.
So what's the experience as he gets off the wagon?
Yeah.
And in order
Like
to
I'm going
experience it, he has to completely dissociate to his own mitzvahs. In order to experience godly oineg, he has to completely dissociate from his own interests.
Right.
And yet, this experience, godly oineg, is part of its being.
Part of its being.
It's its being.
So what rates the kiyumai is you're saying is the shuv?
Ratzu b'kiyumai, to be what God made it,
Mhm.
that's shuv.
Mhm.
That's a different inyan.
Oh, so really then when we say rates the kiyumai, it's
Okay, we'll
So that's clearly.
we're not left hanging over here.
Yeah, but this return, this shuv is beyond ratzon. Beyond
That's right. The
tainug
shuv is beyond the ratzon.
and tainug.
The shuv is beyond the ratzon. Ratzon is a koyach hanefesh as great as it is. Oineg is a koyach hanefesh as great as it is.
So ratzu b'kiyumai is higher than ratzu.
Right. This is the etzem. And yes, this is about you call it shmom. Now I see how you associate it. This is a special present. You'll see in a minute. Okay, so let's start again from at the end of the line that begins Liyas B'chinas Kiloy. Vehu bitul gadol yesir. This is a greater beetle. The shuv is a greater beetle. B'chinas hanochas atzmusai, in the quality, in the sense of hanochas atzmusai. He sets himself aside completely. His presence does not participate in this decision. Lehaniach ritzoynoi, from setting aside his will, behakiloyin. His will is at this moment is kiloyin, to dissipate into alakus, and he sets this will completely aside. His will is bikiloyin, because that is what this is what he recognizes as valuable. This is recognizes as meaningful. The alakus. He gives up this rotzin. V'liyos, and instead to be melubash beguf, instead to be bound and associated with the body. Associated with the body, so then he becomes body. How can that be? The answer is ulakayim ritzoynoi yoyser lamato beguf nefesh, and instead to fulfill makayim ritzoynoi, to fulfill his will.
Yoyser.
Right. To a greater degree, beguf nefesh ativus. To want elokus and to want to fulfill. And to want to fulfill, to want to fulfill the godly will is two different levels completely. To be in the guf nefesh ativus. The bitul hazeh, this bitul, where he can give up his own ratzu and give up his own oineg, hu mikoyach etzem hanshama. This is from the koyach of the etzem hanshama, of the essence of Hashem. As we have identified throughout this thing, there is a koyches makifim urotzim oineg. This is the nashama, but this is the neshama as it expresses itself in an experience in koyach. Then there is the etzem hanshama itself. The truth of the neshama, shehi beteilo be'etzem be'lakus. But the neshama is in essence bottled in alakus. V'nir gashba, and in the neshama is sense hakavono ho'amitis, the true kavona, the true intent, hamushreshes be'atzmus, that is rooted in atzmus. And that is in the exclusively in the shuv. Kavona ho'amitis is mushash in atzmus, and what is the kavona ho'amitis? In the shuv, in being in the world. We still need to discuss it, but let's just go a little further. B'derech klal, overall, in general, to put it in very general terms, hu yinyan kabolas oil malchus shomayim. This is the union of kabolas oil malchus shomayim, accepting the yoke of the heavenly kingdom, of the heavenly rulership. He is accepting the yoke of Malchus Shamayim, of the heavenly kingdom. Now, a king, despite the fact that this is the king of this nation, and he is mashpia to the nation, all his royal richness. He is mashpia to the nation, his royal richness. But this hashpah is from a top-down type of a relationship. If one goes into the king's presence and he feels friendly to the king, I love you. Okay? That is called Medina B'Malchus.
Called what? I'm sorry.
Medina B'Malchus. What kind of chaver am I with you? A melech is in a different realm than the people. And his hashpah to the people is from a different realm. He is giving the people something that they on their own not only they cannot reach it, not see it, they cannot even understand what he's giving them. After they have it. And they have it only by Kabbalah. By submission.
How do we have this Avinu Malkeinu thing? We have Aratati also, like his father?
The Rebbe gives us both relationships. Av and Melech, but they're two different things.
Meaning they don't compromise, I mean...
No, they said a Melech is a Melech and Nav is a Nav. They're two different things.
So when you put it in one sentence, it doesn't mean that it's...
No, the Melech is compromised, no.
What's the nimshal here? How do we get into the king's?
No, the in that Melech is something that the Am cannot rise up to and say, okay, I know what the Melech is. Now I'll be Melech my own right.
I'm not getting what the nimshal fitted in with what. I don't know how.
Kabbalah say Malchus Shemayim, that what he is, what the Etzem HaNefesh relates to is not the beauty of Elokus and the richness of Elokus, but the Malchus of Elokus.
And because of that,
I was told to be here, so I'm here.
Right, there's
Period.
a readiness to leave and go.
Period. There's a story with Nikolai. This is, Nikolai was a very ruthless king. So the story goes that there was a soldier standing guard in a certain garrison, and it was freezing cold, the Russian winter, but he stood guard in the same place. He stood guard in the same place. Ultimately, he stood there long enough that his feet froze over. He lost sensation in his feet. So they came and told the king of the tremendous dedication of this soldier. He stood guard, and he didn't care, he didn't give heed to the fact that his feet are freezing over. So he said, really, his feet freeze over? Take him and give him lashes. Why give him lashes? Isn't he really a dedicated soldier? He says, he stood guard in my mission, fulfilling my mission, and he froze over. Knowing that this is my mission, that should have kept him warm. How could he freeze over with he's standing in my mission?
With the Eibishter, the Emes do this kind of thing. With the Eibishter, the Emes do this kind of thing. Then if you look up also for the Eibishter, your feet gonna not freeze.
That's right.
You mean it wasn't Emes by the king? It seems like he had the right idea, right?
He had the right idea, he just wasn't an Eibishter.
All right.
He got confused, that's all.
Okay, so this is it. Just want to establish where we are. We obviously have to go back a little bit. Okay, we will start by Bitl Hashem Mekir Etzem Shoma. Etzem Shoma is, this is exactly what this whole Maimon is about. This is from the koyach of the etzem and shoma. This is not beyond koyachas and nefesh, beyond the ma'ayis vakifim. Etzem and shoma. How do etzem and shoma come into the goof? The shoma communicates the goof via seichel, chomer, bina v'das, or rotzen and loinek. How does the shoma come into the goof? The etzem and shoma. What's the answer? It was placed there. It cannot on its own climb into the goof like that. It was placed there. That will the mission take up next time. Okay, have a great day.
Yeah.